I'm looking at the fight scene right now. It is so graphic when the yes.
Yeah, well, I remember reading the script, and Daniel just wrote me a note saying, "I'm expecting a lot of action here." And I think that's
pretty vague for you.
And that's that's the relationship we have with our collaboration. There's a lot of playing to each other's strengths, and I also don't think that this project could have survived as long as it have with if we weren't close friends to begin with.
So then, is action your favorite stuff to do?
James, you have to see this action scene. So Reed's chopped up the panels into a zigzag form, and just and it just like there's some there's some real action, and it I Reed, does this play to your strengths? Like,
I'm really regretting not having it in my hand. You're making me jealous over here.
I'll have to bike you over a copy later. I immensely enjoyed drawing this entire chapter, but growing up as a youth, consuming Mark Bagley's drawings of the Amazing Spider-Man, that kind of dynamism and action sequences, I live for that. So this was it. The ending of chapter 1 was quite a joy to draw.
Yeah, it was a great first issue, and definitely a must read for anybody looking for their next favorite comic. This is probably going to be this is definitely going to be there, because it is good. It is really good. I just love. I want to talk more about this action sequence and the violence. It's a visceral comic. You did a great job, man.
Like, how gory would you say it is? Like, what could you compare it to, or gore level?
It's on the gore level of a Stray Bullets.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever read that, Reed. Stray Bullets is like almost a Tarantino type gore, but this is a.
I've heard of the title. I think I want.
So it's not as much. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to do the subject matter justice. We were reviewed on another podcast, The Love of Indie, and I believe he described it as there was no limits to my gore.
Oh, okay.
I think.
There you go, James.
I appreciate it, but it's also, there's a scene where Amelie vomits because she's in shock, and I think it's part of depicting the reality of the situation, that if there is going to be violence, let's not sugarcoat
it real.
Let's
okay.
I guess also, from my farming background, I've participated in the slaughtering of animals, and
all right, I feel you.
There's blood.
Yeah,
I can
there's
tell
blood.
You.
And then
so
there's...
it's got some dripping elements to it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's a line sometimes in the how graphic or gory stuff is like sometimes you don't really see the dripping. I don't know if that's as obvious sometimes, but when you see it, you're like, oh, this is dripping.
Yeah, this is visceral. But then also there's some. It's just not all blood, gore, and violence. There's real heart at Daniel's story here,
and not just like a heart falling in someone's chest.
No, it's emotional heartstrings are being pulled on. You'll like this, James, and I'm hoping all our listeners will like this too, because it's highly recommended.
Sweet. All
right. Well, thanks for being here with us, Reed. Are you up to date on? So again, the book is called Dream Crashers. It's available on Comixology and at Fantagraphics. Fantagraphic Books in. I don't have the address in front of me, but they are in Georgetown, right here in Seattle. And we are going to. So that's a Dream Crasher.
Mm-hmm. So now we're gonna let Reed join us on our review of The Dying and the Dead.
Yes.
It was really good. Spoiler alert. It was good. I liked it a lot.
Alert. Now, we are definitely going to talk about this book, and we are going to review. We've all read it, and we're going to talk about it, so spoiler alert. And I'm sure all our listeners picked it up. They should have, because with names like this, who wouldn't? This is The Dying and the Dead, #1, 61 pages, available on Comixology. Jonathan Hickman wrote it, and Ryan Bodenheim drawed it. He drew it, and it was published by Image Comics.
Wait, what about the colors? Michael Garland. Very important.
Oh, who did the colors?
Michael Garland.
Oh, I didn't write that down. Sorry, Michael.
Very important in this one. I like the colors a lot.
All right.
And we recognize Hickman from, we did a review of Manhattan Project, which scored very high on our review last year.
It certainly did. So, James, give us the setup.
Well, I'd kind of like to start off with the art, because I think that might be my favorite part, and I think it's kind of important how it was done. Or even just like to get the mental picture in your guys' head if you don't have the comic in front of you right now. To me, it's almost like it's a black and white grayscale type comic with the way that the coloring's done, because every page is almost all one color, but it's the way it's shaded. It'll be like blue, and it'll be blue scale, or it'll be red scale, or it'll be, different color scales, but it adds a mood to it, and it plays the setting, and it allows for the detail to really shine. Who would you compare this art to? Do you have any people in mind when you kind of see this? If anybody, do you know what I'm talking about?
I was thinking, I can't remember. I should have wrote this down. Who did the book with Jonathan Hickman on? Who did the Manhattan Projects? Because Manhattan Projects set that mood with the grays and the reds of, especially when you saw the different Oppenheimers. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really effective in the storytelling aspect.
Yeah, I'll have to Google
because
that.
It was like, oh, this is the evil character and this is the good character, and it would be red or blue, but it was a lot more cartoony. Even though the coloring was very similar.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Reed, do you see any people you might recognize in the art world who might be similar to this style? It's got a lot of detail.
It's got a lot of detail right now. I'm particularly looking at the frame of the ring being used as a key, and you can see the woman's fingerprints on her right below her nail. There's the attention to detail, and combined with the coloring, really sets the mood.
It almost reminds. Who was the artist who did the early Walking Deads?
Terry Moore.
Terry Moore. It reminds me a lot of Terry Moore. In that level of detail, and it's that a similar kind of sketch style. Maybe it's a little sharper than that early Walking Dead, but
it's definitely sharper. Yeah.
And it's got more detail in the smaller panels, but I remember there being like a splash page of when you first see the zombies that reminded me a lot of some of the detail we see in these bigger splash pages in this comic. But so much detail,
and detail done right. Like when they break into that vault, and you just see all of this priceless yummies. And there's some Nazi memorabilia and the Shogun warrior outfits and things, and then there's a pedestal with the really good stuff, but just all of those little details in that page alone.
I kind of think.
Sorry.
I kind of think of Derek Robertson from Transmetropolitan in terms of the level of detail in the world building.
We just read.
Oh, that was one of my favorite pages. When you see the city.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, that That was so good.
Oh, that's by far my favorite page. Yeah, all crazy upside down and stuff. But what about this violence at this wedding? Wow.
Yeah, there's definitely some heads being blown off that they look. I mean, it's very realistic, but it's and gory, but not like creepy gory, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's cinematic with. I'm looking at the title page, The Dying and the Dead, and these like almost like ninja SEAL team is walking away from this party where they just killed everybody at the party, and it's a beautiful page. It is so nice to look at. Lots and lots of dead bodies though.
Yeah. All right, so maybe we'll get into the plot, and if we see something especially eye-catching with the art, we'll make sure to hit it, because there's a lot of great art in here, but there's also a lot of great plot. So we start off with. I'll start us off with, and it's well paced too. Like there's a lot of information in here, but they don't try to rush it.
No, not at all.
So we start off with like a wedding scene between these two characters. And that wedding scene, it's the first like 3 or 4 pages, but then when they're in their, what do you call it, the wedding bed? Is there a special name for that? They've crossed the threshold.
Nope.
Whatever it is.
It's not coming to me.
we see a couple panels that are dark red in contrast to kind of the light pink, and we see these guys in scuba gear with machine guns popping out. And we know that there's some action about to happen, and they're broken up in the middle of their consummation, and the guy, he gets shot right in the head. We get some violence right out the gate, and we see the woman who just got married to this guy. It looks like her twin sister who came in and shot the guy. So. And one of the things I really liked was the dialogue. It has these what do you call it? It's like brackets or whatever that make you think like, oh, it's a different language, but it doesn't reveal what that language is.
Oh right,
which I think
never
is
even caught that.
It's a nice little hook that I think sometimes it's like you see like it's Russian or something. You're like, oh, they're like Russian spies or something. But it was a nice little hook to me. I was like, okay, who are these people representing?
The transaction is so cold, too, as the former wife so nonchalantly redresses herself as her ex-husband gets shot in the head is so... It sets a very grave tone.
Yeah, that panel is awesome. You're right, because he's like literally... he's falling back with like the blood behind his head, and she's just like not even looking, like draping herself very casually.
Been there.
Yeah, I think that panel even sums up like 2 pages worth of like, okay, this is what's going down. There was some kind of, they're in cahoots.
Oh yeah, and like, what kind of cahoots are they in? It's so nasty. Like they're dead.
That's our next hook. All right, who wants to take over the next part? What happens next?
It does get very grim here. We cut to a panel. Well, we see that amazing splash page that I was saying earlier, but then we cut to a panel of what is obviously somebody losing the battle of cancer or some terrible disease. Her husband is there with her, and
oh wait, so you mentioned that they go into the bank vault. We described it a little bit.
Oh right, yeah, we missed that whole thing.
But you described it when we were talking about the art. But yeah, they go into this kind of vault thing, and they take this thing on the pedestal that kind of reminded me of like Indiana Jones when he does the switch with the heavy bag and the whatever it is. But we don't know what's in the box.
No.
Another hook.
Another hook.
But wherever you were taking us somewhere, Larry.
Yeah. So there's a guy who is definitely grieving for his wife who is losing her battle to cancer when he has a conversation with what looks like a ghost. Like this man is draped in a white trench coat, white face, white hat, and